Christmas time is a time though when those types of things, those images, those themes, songs, and so forth, they just reverberate in our world, in our life. Have a holly jolly Christmas. Know that one? Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Doesn't that bring a sense of peace? Does anybody here like chestnuts? Huh?
Actually, yes.
Really?
Yes.
Right.
If they're put into something, yeah.
Okay, good. Jingle bells, walking in a winter wonderland, all of these things kind of communicate this idea that the Christmas season or the Advent season is a really, really blessed, wonderful time of the year. But let me ask you honestly, is that what you're experiencing? Are you experiencing, as we start the season of Advent, this is awesome. This is a wonderful time of the year, and everything is hunky-dory and beautiful and just wondrous. Probably not. Probably not, if we're real. For some of us, it's all about family. It's all about one crisis after another sometimes. For some of us, we have a whole list of things in the background of our minds and hearts that we want to see corrected. We want to see changed. We want to see different this year. Yes, it's easy to say, all the lights and all the wondrous things and the happy songs and all those types of things. Maybe there's something wrong with me if I'm not just totally happy. But when you talk to counselors, you talk to psychologists and so forth, this is a normal situation during the season of Advent every year. Is problems, issues seem to surface in the lives of people because we expect good things, but they don't always seem to come. Maybe some of it is personal problems that are keeping you or your loved ones from enjoying the season. Maybe for others, it's just, like I said, one crisis after another, an avalanche of problems. It's just not a holly jolly Christmas at all. Sometimes we all fall into the dilemma of being overly busy. Being overly busy can steal away the joy that you and I should be experiencing at Advent. It's easy to do because we have agendas, we have Christmas decorations, we have people to buy for, we have things to do and family events, and we have all of these agendas that we expect to bring us joy during Christmas. And there's nothing wrong with them. Don't get the wrong idea. I'm not saying that any of that stuff is bad. It's not. What I'm saying is that sometimes we allow it to overtake the reasons that we should be experiencing joy during the Christmas season. And busyness is one of the things. The world doesn't always look like a winter wonderland. Sometimes the world is ugly. And sometimes the world is filled with disillusionment. Disillusionment is a real and a natural process of what we go through as human beings during this time of year, repeatedly, year after year after year. Because problems are guaranteed in life. Guaranteed. And it's one of the biggest problems that we as Christians, I believe, have, and that is understanding delusionment and understanding how to deal with a repetition of problems and issues in our life. It's hard to do. We don't always see the answer. We don't see the resolution. So what can we do at Christmas to avoid disillusionment? How can we improve the level of joy that you and I will experience this year? The answer is found in the book of Matthew, and I will refer you there for your Advent readings, and I hope you're doing that. Matthew 2 is a story about these wise men, and we all know the story. We've seen the children's plays, we've read the stories, we've heard the scriptures repeatedly. We know all about the Magi. But the Magi saw this star in the heavens, and they understood it as a sign of the birth of a brand new king. And they represented, or they saw that as the king that was to come for the nation of Israel. And they wanted to honor him with gifts. They wanted to do something positive. They wanted to express their faith. They wanted to express their awe over what God was doing in the world by bringing in this new king into the nation of Israel, which was the nation of people that were to represent God. And that's what they were doing. They wanted to follow that star. They wanted to see this newborn king that had come into the world. So they set out on a journey. We all know. They set out on this journey to find the newborn king. The attitudes of these wise men and the events that surrounded their journey, that's how we can find, and that's how we can see how you and I can experience joy this Christmas. It's through the things that the Magi did. Now, there's some questions that this story asks. The first one is, what is it that you're seeking? And then when you look at the story of the Magi, this question is right at the top of the list. These men didn't have to do what they did. They didn't have to go and search. They were looking a long time before they ever took off on this journey for the coming Messiah, the one that was called for in Scripture, the one that had been prophesied, repeatedly in several different places. There's a lot of things we don't know about the Magi, like why were they so intent on finding the child that was being born, the new king? Why? What was the point? They weren't of the nation of Israel. They didn't live there. They were hundreds and hundreds of miles away. So there's a lot of things that we don't know, but what we do know is that the attitude of their heart, they were seeking to see what God was doing in the world. They were looking. They were seeking. Your level of joy that you'll experience this Advent season is directly related to what it is you're looking for. Directly related. If you want to know what God is doing in the world in a deeper and a more intimate way, then He will show us. He will show us all. But we have to do the work. We have to pursue what God is doing. We have to be willing to open our heart and listen and experience what He's doing in the world and in our lives and maybe even in our church in different ways. So what is it that you want to get out of Christmas? We always ask that. What is it that you want? What is it that you really want? And this is the perfect opportunity for someone to say, the expected answer, well, I want to, know all about Jesus. No, what do you really want? Because I guarantee you one thing, and I think everybody here will attest to the fact that you won't do anything that you don't want to do. If you don't want to read your scriptures, you won't do it. If you don't want to pray, you're not going to do it. If you don't want to look to see what God is doing in the world, you're not going to do it. We're all human beings. That's the way we work. We do the things that are of importance to us. We do the things that are important to our heart. So what is it that you really want to see? Or what is it that you really want to experience? Or what is it that you're seeking this year? And maybe it's different than past years. I know for me, it's a deeper intimacy with God. That's what I want. That's what I really want. So I will work toward that. I will flounder and falter and make mistakes along the way, whatever it takes. But what is it that you want? Is it snow? Is it family together and all those wonderful good tidings? And, is it this, what do they call it? The holiday spirit, Yay! Is it finding the right presents to give? Is it making somebody else happy? Is it getting the right thing? I don't know. Have you ever been disappointed by Christmas because it didn't deliver to you what you expected? Let me say that again. Have you ever been disappointed during Advent because it just didn't measure up to what you were expecting? Well, the problem is not Advent or Christmas. It's in our expectations. So many times I've run into people, especially as a pastor, that really don't know what they want. And I'm just being honest and upfront. They just don't know. Yeah, I expect all these wondrous things, and I expect God to, be joyful, and all these. But when you get down to specifics, what is it that you really want? What is it that you really expect? I'm not sure. So that would be the first question for you. Would be, what is it that you really want to receive? What is it you really want to get out of this Advent season? Can you define it? Is it a deeper relationship? Is it a deeper understanding? Is it the opportunity to share your love and whatever with other people? I don't know. There's many, many, many different things that we could ask for or that we could want. So it's not the problem in why we experience delusionment sometimes at Advent is it sometimes because we don't know what we're looking for. The Magi show us, though, how to increase their level or our level of joy because they looked for the right thing. And if you look at verse 2 in that section, you'll find it. They came to Jerusalem and said, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." That's what they asked when they got to Jerusalem, into the temple. You see, the Magi, they were looking for Jesus. In Advent or Christmas, however you want to word it, to them was an opportunity to worship the coming Messiah. That was where their heart was. They wanted to worship the God that they wondered over, that they were in awe over, the God that was so far beyond them. They wanted to grow closer to him. And they were willing to make the journey in order to try and do that. So if our goal this Christmas, this Advent, is to worship Jesus, if that is our goal, I seriously doubt that we'll be dissatisfied. And let me say it again. If our heartfelt goal is simply to worship God and to know him in a deeper way, I don't think that there's any way we could ever be disappointed. But if we let all these other things in, it's easy to get disappointed. Another thing that we see from the story of the Magi here is, where do you look? Where are you going to look for what you're expecting out of the Advent season this year? Where will you look? The level of joy that you will experience is directly related also to where you look. Magi teach us that there was a right place and a wrong place to go. They did not get it right. Regardless of whatever you've heard in the past, look at the story. The Magi messed it up. What'd they do? They started by looking in the wrong place. They ended up using their own human reasoning and determining, well, this is where we should probably go. We see the star. We know the king is being born, so let's go over there. We too look in the wrong places sometimes. We think sometimes that by giving the right things or giving, whatever, somehow we'll be satisfied, or we'll be satisfied through the joy maybe of another person, or that maybe we can instill this Advent joy in each other somehow. A lot of people just believe that the Advent season is the time for family when we get together and we put our differences aside, and that'll make us all happy. Doesn't work. All of these things, though, can easily disappoint us because maybe we can't afford it, or maybe we have difficult scenarios in our family's units where we just can't seem to find that sense of peace. Maybe there's family members missing. I don't know how you ever make that up when people are missing. But if you're looking for these things for the joy, I think we'll be left with a sense of disillusionment. The Magi looked, though, in the right place when they turned to God. Let me explain. You see, at first the Magi, they went to Jerusalem, which was supposedly God's headquarters, right? For all the Israelite nation. Yeah, let's go to Jerusalem. That's where he's got to be, right? But what did they find when they got there? They found an angry king that wanted to kill him. And they're like, well, this is not right. So they go to the temple and they find out that, wait a minute. God's word says that this Messiah person will be coming out of Bethlehem. Oh, we're in the wrong place. But when they turned to the people in the temple, when they turned to the priests and the religious leaders, and they understood the prophecy, that's when they understood that they were in the wrong place. See, the scribes told them that the prophet Micah said that the messenger, again, was to be born in Bethlehem. And with this new information, what did they do? They packed up and headed out. Okay. You ever done that in your own spiritual walk? Maybe even during Advent? You went somewhere, you expected certain things, only to find out that I'm in the wrong place. That's okay. It really is okay. The other thing that the Magi teach us is they gave. They gave. I believe that your level of joy and that you will experience this Advent is directly related to what it is that you give. Directly related. You see, the Magi, we know from the story, they came to the house bearing gifts that were totally appropriate. Now, how they knew what to give, I have no idea. One of these days, maybe we can ask them. But I have no idea. But they gave gold, which was a normal gift for a king. And then they gave frankincense, which again was a normal gift for a priest. Frankincense was part of the incense that was used in the temple to honor God by the priests. So the reference here is right, spot on. You know, gold for a king, frankincense for the priest. And then they gave myrrh, which is very unusual. Myrrh was a gift for the dead. This was something that they anointed the body of a dead person with. Why would they give that? But somehow they knew. And the interesting part is, all three of these gifts were extremely expensive. You know, you talk about God's provision sometimes. We know from the story that, yeah, sure, after the Magi showed up and they presented all the gifts and everything, you know, Joseph gets a dream and he says, you better get out of there because Herod's going to try and kill you. So go to Egypt. Well, guess what? Now they had the money to do it. You know, Scripture doesn't tell us, but it makes sense that through these resources that the Magi brought, it must have been part of God's provision in order to have the Christ child survive this massacre that Herod established. Yeah, these gifts were very, very expensive. So as we look at Advent this year, we ought to give appropriate gifts at Christmas also, I think. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about material stuff. I'm talking about the more important things, the very costly things, the very difficult to give things. You want to experience Advent the way it's supposed to be experienced, we need to give. It might be the gift of help to somebody. Is there somebody in your life, in your world, in your family that needs help? Are you willing to do it? Are you willing to help? Are you willing to at least offer? Are you willing to put them ahead of yourself? Am I willing to put someone ahead of myself? For their own sake, for their benefit. You know, offering somebody the help that they need selflessly is one of the most beautiful gifts that we could ever give. And Jesus remarked about that many times. Even a more costly gift to give is the gift of forgiveness. Forgiveness. Again, over my short period of time in pastoral ministry, I've met more people that don't want to forgive. Don't want to forgive. Why? Because you don't know what they did to me. You don't know what was said. You don't understand the pain and all the stuff that they inflict. You don't know. It doesn't make any difference. It really doesn't make any difference. Jesus dies on a cross for you and I. But he also tells us, you know what? If you won't forgive your brother or your sister, then I'm not going to forgive you either. I mean, it just doesn't get any plainer than that. And as we come into this season of Advent, to experience Advent the way that the Magi did, with the awe that they had, like the shepherds in the field, the awe that they had over this child being born, this new king into the world, are we willing to forgive those that have offended us? Maybe greatly. I don't know. So I encourage you to think about what it is that you want to seek this year. What it is that you want to find. What is it that you want to experience? And know definitively what it is. And know where you want to look. Also understand what it is you should be giving. Advent is about gifts. It's about giving to others in the name of Christ out of love. Out of love. This coming year, you're going to hear me talk about that quite a bit. And the expression you're going to hear repeatedly is do everything in love. Everything. I promise you that one of these days, nothing else will make any difference.